pilot episode of the Coach's Office podcast. The introduction should be something like you saying something like,
Welcome to the Coach's Office, Episode 1. Let's see what happens.
That's right, I'm JB Anderson.
I'm
Texas
Ben
Street
Smith.
Coffee.
Yep, we got some Texas Street coffee here and whatever else you're drinking.
Aldi Seltzer, best in the game, plain seltzer. If you want to drink seltzer water, you're going to want to drink Bell V from Aldi.
It's too fancy for me.
No, it's so nice. You don't drink sparkling water?
Sometimes if it's there, but I don't go out of my way looking for it.
Yeah, right. You and Noel buy the bougie stuff. You got LaCroix and
We've had it before. Aha. Yeah.
Always. You're always drinking bougie stuff. But anyways, pilot episode, CrossFit and Friendship, and all things that follow.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions in the CrossFit world. There's a lot of information that is all over the place, and we wanted to sit down and talk about CrossFit, talk about how we've kind of built a friendship over the years and doing things like this, sitting down and having conversations over lunch or over coffee. Or
all right, tell me about the most recent thing that you did for the gym, where you did the survey asking members comments, concerns, questions, how to make it better, wherever. Where'd that come from? Why'd you do it?
Yeah, so I was talking to Dylan, who comes in and works on us from Tidewater Sports Therapy on Thursdays, and he goes to CrossFit Cafe, and Jeff Ernsberger owns that, and he was talking about how they did a survey for their members and wanted to see what they could improve on, things like that, and I was like, hey, that's a good idea. We need to do it here. So we just sent out a really quick, easy survey, get some feedback from people, just because, I mean, it's something that I don't do as often, and I don't pay attention to the business stuff as much as I should, but it helps when you have things and goals to like shoot for and work towards, and you know that you're getting feedback from members or athletes, and you guys can like, it's things that you can work on the front desk, things that you can work on the business, like just need to be getting feedback if you want to be making progress.
What do you think is the definition of successful business, successful gym for you currently at this, sort of, let's say 2021?
Yeah, I mean, we never started the business with like a goal to, let's say, make money or whatever it was. It was always just like, I love doing CrossFit. I loved seeing what CrossFit could do for people and friends. Like I had friends that trained with me all summer. You know how it went. And it was just, we wanted to bring that to the community, bring that to the people. Like, this is like the one thing that people may not know that they need, is that fitness and that in their life. And it's just like the daily habit of the discipline. And, but yeah, I mean, we just wanted to bring that to the community. So that's why we started.
So are you going to, all right, when I think business, or I think, generally when you think business, you think money, always.
Right.
And the show Ted Lasso.
Classic.
Most people started this show not knowing what to expect, not knowing that it was an SNL skit, not knowing that it was a joke. But it turned out to be something, far greater than they had ever expected. But the show starts off, and you encounter this fringe character, right? Fringe coach who his ways are not normal. They're out of the box. They're I'm trying to think of, I had a word. Anyways, maybe it'll come to me later. But anyways, he's out of the box, and you love him. Like, you love him. Everything about him, right? You're like, I need someone in my life like this guy.
Mm-hmm.
However, he's not the, typical definition of a coach. And I've been starting to think through, is that why Krypton is so successful? Because the thought behind the gym wasn't make as much money as possible so that, and then fill in the blank, right? If profit isn't sort of the main motivation,
Mm-hmm.
then what filled its place for you if that wasn't it?
Yeah, I feel like the businesses that do really well, they're not they're focused on bringing either a really good product into the world, or they're bringing an idea, and like they're taking this thing that's an idea or a product, and they're like, I want to make the world a better place with this thought or with this idea or with this product, or I can help people with this product. That's how it starts generally.
Right.
And then some people, the profits come quick, right? But then other people, it's like the profits and the money and the things like that are just a byproduct of the wanting or desire to help your community, help people around you, help the world, whatever your goals, like whatever your goals are for, I'm thinking like big companies, like even huge companies like Apple, they always say they always started in a garage or something like that. But Amazon, Apple, those kind of companies, like even though they're so massive, I'm sure that wasn't like the beginning focus, huh? What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with that.
Maybe it's just a thought.
So like you start your company as I guess like the base level would be something along the lines of you need to provide,
there's definitely like a side of it, like, hey, I got to make money to live. Like there's business people that go after these things just to make money.
Right.
I don't think those are like the most successful businesses, let's say.
So it's something along the lines of greed is not a part of the main equation for why you're starting what you're doing, or if anybody can avoid greed in their business, they'll probably be successful because they won't lose focus on helping others, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. Is that the
yeah, I'm trying to think of like a relation of greed in business to like coming into a CrossFit gym and just, let's say, focusing on something that's not as important, something like focusing on what?
Well,
like
if you
trying to think of, you know what I'm saying?
No,
I'm
I
trying
know
to think
exactly
of the
what you're saying,
relationship
because it's the
carry.
One thing that I really miss that I think is a good check for all CrossFit gyms is an actual whiteboard with class members' names on it, with what they lifted that day and what they scored on the workout. And I've thought about this through a couple of different lenses. One of those lenses is, will you fall victim, or will you be tempted, or will that temptation overcome you at the end of your workout to say 197 reps instead of 167? Because you're worried about what someone sees beside your name on the board, even though the reason for the board has nothing to do with comparison.
Yeah.
Right?
The board is just for recording purposes. It's so that you can see what you can be held responsible for your work for that day, and you can write it down and you can record it. You can look back on it if you need to retest or test to see if you've got fitter, right? So that's that's the reason for the whiteboard.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't want to fudge your books. You don't want to, like your lies catch up to you, whatever it is in business. And greed seems to be something like that to me, where you're cutting corners, you're taking advantage, you're shaving reps, you're, whatever it is.
It's like that initial lie, and then eventually it must come out, kind of like the truth kind of must come out in the end.
Yeah.
And then
you get exposed eventually, like the gym exposes.
For example, if you're always if you're always recording more reps than you did on your workout on the whiteboard, right, or beyond the whiteboard or wherever you're recording scores, then let's see February, the open rolls around, and all of a sudden you're exposed, right? So you lied about one thing maybe in the winter time or something like that. Yeah. But then you're not able to cover that when it actually comes out in February. Like it's bound to happen because you're going to compete in the open. And if you're not, people are like, hey, why are you not competing in the open? Well, you have the best scores on the whiteboard all the time. You should compete in the open. So it's like, yeah.
So it has to be. So I think something that CrossFit taught me over the course of the years, and I mean, it's so interesting how much it has offered me or taught me. One of the things that I like most about it is it doesn't remove the ability to, lie, cheat, steal, right? Like, it still exists, right? Like, and you can look around and it's like, what overrides, like, as far as like systems go or places go, opportunity goes, the gym might be the easiest place to come in and just be you. Like, especially in CrossFit, because it really is calling you to just be you. Coming back to the beginning of the conversation where it's like, well, why did you start the gym? Well, I think if you start your company like you started this gym and it's just you, like it really is, you know, it's got Ben's DNA all over it, right? It's got the Smith family DNA all over it. And that is who you guys are. Well, then the gym will follow suit, right? Like there's something, and we talk about this a lot too, where we have language where I'll say something like it's encoded into nature, or it is like there's something operating in the background and you can't describe it. Right? Most people, it's always something like karma, right? People use the word karma a ton, right? Like good karma, bad karma, or whatever it is. But when you start this thing and it is congruent and it is genuine and it is based on, you know,
good intentions,
truth, truth, all of those things, then something, why does that override a monetary desire? Like it monetizes the proper thing with the end goal not being...
It doesn't do it all the time, right? So like playing the opposite side. A lot of CrossFit gyms started for that reason. People want to just help other people, but it boils down to you also have to run a business. So there's that, you know, the dynamic of the, hey, on the one side, I want to do good, and then things that are good work out for the people who try to do the good, right? And then there's the other side of, I'm just trying to do good, but I can't make ends meet financially because I'm doing really good, but I only have 10 clients or 10 athletes that come to my gym.
Right.
So there's that case too. So you got to look at both sides of the coin.
All right. I'm going to come back to the third side of the coin then. And the third side of that coin is, well, why aren't they growing?
Right. And there's a lot of nuance involved in that whole situation. So I'm just,
So I'm almost... all right, so I agree with you.
Right.
I've seen many gyms fail. I've seen many businesses fail, whatever it is. My question is, it might not be exposed. Coming back to the whiteboard, coming back to the exposure that the gym causes, whatever it, you know, that initial desire, the initial intention, the motivation, whatever.
Right.
It might have been like, I guess my question or my thought, whatever I'm gonna wrestle with for a while, is if your initial intentions are good, that all right, you want to go biblical language, you go with what seed did you plant? Like what was the actual seed for, you know, what you were trying to grow, right? The mustard seed parable is the tiniest of seeds grows into, you know, this incredible tree.
Yeah, this is why it's so hard to, you know, to talk about how you get to this point right now. It's like I don't know how I got to this point. All I know is that I opened the gym with the intention of seeing the transformations that I saw in my friends and the people around me and myself with CrossFit, and I wanted to see that in other people.
Right, the proper seed.
I wanted to take that and make it available to as many people as I could because I thought CrossFit was the truth.
Right. Yeah.
CrossFit was the way if you want to get fitter. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's good language for it because it's revolutionizing the fitness industry right now. It's like everybody's trying to chase CrossFit.
Oh yeah.
It's like they're the Apple of the tech of the fitness world, right? Like they're the ones who set in the bar. All these other companies, anything you can think of, all these high intensity boot camps, things like that, they're all trying to copy it.
Right.
So clearly they're doing something right.
Right. And then
whether
CrossFit
people want to admit that or not.
And so CrossFit has its shadow in a couple of different places where you could have listening to the clips of Marcus Philly on Mark Bell's podcast, and you're hearing, you know, his
functional bodybuilding, how it needs to be incorporated into CrossFit.
Right, exactly. And that's money, like money through and through, right? And that flowed out of probably an organic sort of place in Marcus Philly's life. I've never met him.
Yeah.
I don't know him. I've observed him on Instagram, and from what I can tell, what he is doing and producing is something he cares about.
Yep.
Something he thinks brings value to the world.
Right.
And doesn't seem just to be it's not a gimmick to him.
Right.
You know,
it's very genuine. It's very authentic.
genuine.
I think a lot of things people are chasing online, they want authenticity.
Oh, and I brought that up
Yeah.
because CrossFit is going to produce all of those things. Like, bodybuilding can't produce anything other than bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. There's no...
Well, there's what's the goal in bodybuilding? The goal in bodybuilding is to build yourself up to look as good as you. I mean, whether it's whatever they judge,
right?
Whatever standards they use to judge,
right.
It's to build yourself up to be as big and as good looking
symmetrical
as you possibly can. Right? It's
so
like a sculpture contest. Let's say with
it's
the
a sculpture of the human body contest.
It's art.
Yeah, it's an art.
There's
form.
no functionality. I mean,
right.
There's no functionality because they don't care about functionality, other than the fact that if you have good range of motion, you probably look better. Let's say, you know what I'm saying? Like
some with your poses,
something to do. Right. There's some symmetry with the, like the ratios and all that.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. It's hard though. There's a, I mean, I don't have anything that I dislike about bodybuilding. You know, I'm not a big. I'm a big proponent of you do you. Like, if you like going to that gym and, you know, doing back and buys, cool.
Yeah,
you know,
great.
That's cool with me. Like,
yeah.
I'm glad that you're out going to the gym, you know, pursuing what your, you know, health, you know, whatever it is. The thing that I worry about is if something is tricking you into thinking that what you're doing is healthy and it's actually not healthy. It's the it's the food that's advertised real well towards the person that has no idea how to look at the ingredients to see if it's actually what it's projecting itself to be.
Right.
And if something is projecting itself to be health and fitness and it's not, that's a problem. And it should be able to be tested. And that's what I think CrossFit exposed across the board. Was like, what are you testing right now? What are you doing? Why are you working towards what you're doing? And I remember as a personal trainer, I don't know, but all right, let's go first CrossFit workout stories.
Okay.
You just huge tangent.
That's fine. First CrossFit workout stories. My dad and I, my dad showed me CrossFit.com, and I think we saw like Tosh or something do Grace. And then we were like,
you remember what he got?
Yeah, it was like 204. See, like I remember this like benchmark in my head. I was like, yeah, he hit like 203 or 204. Like did it in a seminar. It was like in a gym in California, right?
204.
Yeah, which back in 2007 or something
so
like
fast.
that, 6 or something like that. Yeah, it was fast, right?
That's so fast.
Everybody was impressed that the seminar was like, it was super impressive. Like he was putting on a show and everybody's watching and CrossFit was filming and they were going through all that, right? We watched this video and my dad's like, I can do that.
Of course.
And I'm like,
of course he did.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, we can go outside. We took a barbell. We had Olympic barbell. We had 45-pound metal plates. We took it out in the backyard on the grass and just did
the barbell spin?
30 reps per time. It was actually an Olympic lifting barbell.
Oh, yeah. You told me about
my dad had an Olympic lifting barbell.
Yes. What? Didn't he like get it sent back from like Taiwan or something?
No, he had it like he got it when he was deployed or something like that overseas. And like, yeah. I think so. I don't know. But
it was an overseas barbell, though.
It was an overseas barbell because it was like 39.5 pounds. Like it wasn't. I found out that it wasn't 45 pounds like 4 or 5 years into CrossFit, and I was like, oh, this isn't good. Dang. So it wasn't a 45-pound barbell, but it wasn't a 35-pound barbell. It was I don't know where it came from. No idea. But it started with that magical barbell. But we went out and did Grace in the backyard.
All right.
And I remember the reps like weren't that good. Like they weren't quite
right.
out.
Yeah,
but we just did the work.
For
like
sure.
You just went out and you did the work. This is the beginning of your adventure into CrossFit or like your journey. And it's like you don't know how to move. You don't know. All you do is you see what's on the TV or the internet or whatever.
Right.
And you're like, I'm going to go try to do that. And you
Right.
do your best to go put forth your best effort.
Did
to
it
do
punish you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my dad did it in like a minute and 35 seconds.
You're lying.
No, I'm like, no, I'm not lying. Like, I was like, how did you just do that? I watched him do it, and then I'm like, all right, it's my turn. I think I went like 210 or 215 or something like that. Like, I started out with like, 10 or 15 reps as fast as you could go, and then you're like you're so tired, you're like, take a step back, and you're like, you need to breathe, and you're like, this is a new feeling that I've never experienced before.
Bro, you went 215.
Something like that.
As a high schooler?
Yes, something like that. It was like going, end of high school, something like that.
What?
I don't remember. But it was like, the reps are like, your back's rounded, you're just pulling from the floor. But like, this was something like, I've always been moderately strong, like able to move weight and stuff. How dare you not have perfect form?
It
was bad.
All the time.
And I'm saying that because it's like, if you cut form and you do like a 215 Grace,
Right.
let's say.
Right.
But then you make your form better, your time might go to like 230, but your form was way better. So over time, like, you improve there.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm always trying to tell people in the gym, and it's hard to get the point across because
Right.
people are like, they're just so focused on that end goal of time, how
Right.
fast I did the
Right.
workout, that they can't comprehend that you need to move well and you need to increase your intensity. So
Right.
it's like you have to do both, and sometimes you have to take a step or two back before you can move forward. Sometimes you have to do a 230 Grace before you can do a 2-minute Grace, even though your time's already 2 minutes.
Right.
Your time's 2 minutes, and you're like, I'm going to beat 2 minutes. I'm going to come into the gym, and I'm going to go 145 today. And you're like, okay.
That statement
Take a
is
step back.
a foreign language to most people in most CrossFit gyms across the world.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand that concept.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't even know what
let's
the concept is. But
Right, so let's talk about the concept. Let's
like, name the
iron it out.
concept or try and define what you just said, because that's worth giving away.
For sure. Let's use Grace as the example since we're talking
All
about
right.
it. So your Grace time is 2 minutes.
202.
2:02. But let's say, I'm just using this as an example. It's not like yours exactly.
No, it is exactly.
All right,
that.
this will be yours. 2:02. But it's sloppy.
Oh,
It's a sloppy 2:02.
It is sloppy.
Let's say they're push presses, but at the top, your knees are bent. You know what I'm saying?
It's probably about 27 reps instead of 30 as well.
Sure. Okay, that's fine. But whatever it is, right?
Not cutting
See,
the
but
reps,
you
like
can't,
just.
okay, but we got to start. We got to start at 30 reps. You have to do 30 reps. You can't do 26 reps.
It is to 30 reps. I'm saying they, game standard with a judge for the open. I might, and Georgie is judging me. I'm gonna end at. I'm gonna get a few no reps in there. Just saying.
Yeah, it's just because Georgie's judging. Yeah.
Whatever. Shout
But
out
anyways,
to George.
Yeah. So 202 Grace. You got to do 30 reps first. Like, if you're gonna want to measure yourself at all, you can't cut reps. Let's just start there.
Correct. Yes.
Like, you got to do all the reps. I don't
Yes.
care if you do all the reps and you're 10 minutes slower than everybody else in the class. The coach should watch you, and it's like, if you are falling behind, the coach should help you keep up with the class.
Correct.
You should come around and you whisper. You talk to
Correct.
the person. You're like, hey, we're gonna do 3 rounds instead of 4. Or, hey, we're gonna do 8 reps instead of 10 here on these burpees because we're taking 45 seconds instead of 30 seconds, and it's an EMOM, and I want you to get some rest.
Right.
Whatever it is, right? So, okay, you got a 202 Grace, and it's sloppy. You're pulling with your back. You're not using your legs, right? Just you're muscling through it. You're pressing it out overhead. Your movement's not as efficient as it could be. You didn't quite take the barbell through the full range of motion that you should.
Right.
Let's say leave it at that, because if you're looking at work capacity, you're looking at how I got to move this barbell from A to B 30 times.
Yep.
And if I short that by 6 inches each time, that's going to add up to a lot of work over the course of 30 reps.
Right.
Right, because Grace is 30 reps for time.
30 clean and jerks. 135.
Take
for
the
time.
barbell from the floor to overhead 30 times. So I have to preface all this stuff because I want to make sure it's I want to make sure everybody knows.
Right.
So where are we at now? We got 30 reps in 202, but it's sloppy.
Yeah.
Okay. If you clean up your technique and you do a perfect, absolute, the best rep you could possibly do,
Right.
you're doing Olympic lifting meet.
Yep.
And you do 30 perfect
Yep.
clean and jerks.
Yep.
And your time is 3 minutes.
Yep.
You're like, oh, crap.
Which one's better?
No. You're like, oh, crap, I'm not fit anymore.
Okay.
You got Georgie watching you.
All right.
And you're like, all right, I got to do every rep, and I got to do every rep good.
Yep.
Right? Perfect. So you do
Mhm.
them perfect. 3 minutes.
Yep.
That time is 50% slower than your 202.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot slower
Yeah.
than your previous time. So you could leave the gym that day being like, man, I'm just like, I'm not fitter. I'm like, if I choose that perspective of like, oh man, I'm just not getting fitter. I'm not getting better. I don't know what's going on. Maybe the programming is wrong. Maybe my coach is bad.
Yes,
maybe the gym equipment sucked. The barbell didn't quite spin as much as it should, right? Like it was a little rusty today. You know, but a lot of people don't know that they need to take the perspective of, okay, that's the other side of the spectrum. So the one side of the spectrum is I'm moving as fast as I possibly can and my time's 2:02. Great. Awesome. Yeah. I'm moving perfectly and my time's 3 minutes.
Right.
Now, with CrossFit, there's a skill to this, and not a lot of people really understand this, but they talk about it in the level 1, balancing the intensity versus your form. Mm-hmm. You want to be able to blend those two together as seamlessly as you can. So you want to go as fast as you can, but also complete the range of motion required. That's the idea. Okay. Right? So let's say you're really somewhere around 2.5 minutes.
Right.
With a good solid score, so that then you want to give yourself the best possible benchmark so that you can come back with the same technique but go faster.
Right.
So that's the idea. That's why we want to kind of work on the.
All right, give me the example outside of the gym. The first example that comes to mind of this outside of the gym, where people get it wrong. The hypothesis, antithesis, synthesis.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. First example. Oh, man. What do you got?
I just thought about driving for some reason.
Okay.
Where it was like where we're going to lunch the other day, and you leave out of the parking lot before me, and you're going ham to Chipotle.
That's just the way I drive. Right. Don't critique me like that.
However, it's not reckless. It's not dangerous. It's not anything. You're
efficient.
It's efficient. At this point, you're doing exactly what you could be doing, whatever. And I'm just kind of coasting, right? Mm-hmm. Like I am thinking, is Ben driving fast or am I driving slow? But eventually we get to the exit to get off, and I'm probably I've closed the gap by half, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, he's not driving that fast. Maybe I'm just driving a little slow. And then eventually, like another half mile later, we hit a stoplight and we're beside each other. At that point, I'm like, oh, I'm going to beat him to Chipotle.
Yeah, let me just run the stoplight real quick.
Right. By any means necessary.
Sure.
So my like good form in the beginning, like I'm kind of coasting, or I think I have really good form in the beginning at this point. Like I'm doing exactly what I need to do, and I'm steady, and then up to the point where the lane you were in had 3 cars in it, and the lane I ended up in had 1 car in it. So now I'm just I coast ahead. And then I remain ahead. So, I mean, like, this is straight, like, some type of chipper analogy for a
I did think you were racing me the other day.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I race all the time.
For sure.
Julianne, my wife.
I thought it was just me going crazy thinking that.
No. I will never voluntarily or willingly lose anything ever. Like, ever. The only place that this kind of exists in my life. And that analogy I just gave might be stupid. I have no idea, but it just legitimately just came to mind where I was like, is this like the idiot that drives somewhere too fast that gets stopped by the red light and gets exposed? I don't know. Maybe I'll work that one out. Sorry to waste your time with my driving analogy, but yeah, I'll never let anyone beat me in anything ever. Like, I mean, I almost have 1-year-old daughters. They will never win. They will never receive a victory from me in like a competition ever, unless they beat me.
They'll beat you and stuff. Yeah.
They will beat me in things.
Yeah,
that's easy.
You'll let them win things too.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you will. You have to.
All right.
It keeps me in mind. Yeah.
Why do you say
I think of that whole, like, we listen to Peterson a lot.
Yeah.
So I think of that one Peterson comment about the mice wrestling. He goes off on the Joe Rogan talking about mice wrestling. He's like, the bigger mice lets the little mice win, like a certain amount of times out of 10, so that the little mice
continues to wrestle, right?
Otherwise, they'll stop playing because you kind of crush their spirit.
You want to play, right?
Yeah.
No, that's a really
that's fine. That's what I think.
You're
right.
right.
That's funny.
You're right. I'm all talk. The It's also interesting where this manifests for me in the gym, though, because I'm not bad at CrossFit, but the amount of time and attention that I have or am willing to put forth towards it is about an hour a day.
Sure.
I like what that has produced over the last 10 years.
I mean, we've always said all you have to do is come to a CrossFit gym 3 days a week.
Right.
Do the workout as hard as you can and as well as you can.
Right.
Qualitatively.
Right.
And eat well.
Yes.
And you're going to be in the top 1% of healthy, fit
yes.
people in the world.
Yes.
Like, it's very simple. Like, they've done a really good job of making that accessible to everybody.
Yes.
There's gyms everywhere now.
It's amazing. It really,
it's crazy.
like, it really is. It will transform you. It will transform you if you take little simple things serious. Like, there's
That's
a very
good point. These are all little points that I think are just like we throw them out there, but they're really important. Like you just said, take little things seriously.
Right.
Why is that important?
To me, it translates. Mainly, it translates relationally for me. Take something very little serious. It enables you to be a good listener. It enables you to understand when somebody says something to you and it's not a problem. Like, it's actually not a big deal. It doesn't really matter, like, in the grand scheme of things. However, in that very moment, it does matter. It matters to them. And they might just need a set of ears for you to hear them, right, or whatever that specific moment calls for. But it grows into something much larger. That listening ear grows into maybe a lifelong friendship. I don't know what it might be.
Well, we're talking about the same thing right now. So I'm like talking about, I said, well, why do you do this one little thing? Like, why do you listen, let's say, really well? And why is it important? Because you've seen how that cultivates relationships and that builds over time and accumulates, right?
Yeah.
Like compounding interest will accumulate over time.
Right.
These little things that you do that might seem unimportant, like finishing your rep at the top of grace.
Right.
That last 3 inches of the movement.
Right.
And making sure you stand all the way up. It doesn't seem important at the time, right? But now that you've listened to somebody, you're now open to having conversations with them daily about things that are important and that matter to you and matter to them, and you guys can build a relationship and move. Like, you see the good that comes from it, and it seems like that's a good intention, and that makes me believe that that's something true.
Yes.
Like, that's something true. How do I know it's true? It's true because it compounds over time and it produces good.
Right. And it tests over. You could might even be able to use the CrossFit definition, right, if it's over multiple modalities.
The health idea.
Right.
Right. That's what health is in CrossFit. It's how fit can you be for over time. Right. That's what they're claiming. That's their statement. They claim what health is.
Right.
It's like longevity in the sport, or longevity in the doing CrossFit over time. So keeping and maintaining that fitness over time. I think it's true. As far as we've seen in the community with people that have been doing CrossFit. When you have it,
no, you got it.
Yeah, you have examples of it where people do high intensity training their whole life, and you see they're just fit. They're fitter than everybody else. They look like they're 60, and all of their friends are 60, and they look like they're 40 compared to their friends who are 60. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're just more functional. They're just more stable, durable.
Yeah, this dude that comes into the coffee shop is legitimately a 70-year-old grandfather who is fit. I mean, my man is fit. And he has his grandson with him, you know, and I do ministry to middle schoolers and high schoolers. And so I'm like, hey, what school do you go to? You know, I'm a part of this thing called Young Life. And he's like, I go to this youth group. I'm actually already involved in here and here. I'm like, that's great. You know, like, it's cool. But I mistook this guy as dad and kid as son, right? And I was like, all right, you're taking your son to school? And he was like, it's my grandson. And I went, oh, my goodness. And then, like, a week later, we're chatting, and I'm like, tell me, you know, like, sort of what's your regimen? What's your thought process? And he said, you know, 30 or 40 years ago, he and his buddies would just go to a random place and make up a makeshift triathlon-like thing. And they would go and do 3 separate things, far and fast, together, and then they would see who would win, and then afterwards they would, like, cook breakfast or something.
That's cool. Like, that's awesome.
40 years later, I mean, my dude is healthy. right? Like, it's not even fit. Like, that's such a good point where it's like, I don't care if you're fit. Like, why do we cross, like, our language linguistically? Words matter. Truth matters. Don't manipulate words so that you're, so that you're in some gray area of truth or whatever it is. But my man is healthy. I actually probably don't care about his fitness if he's unhealthy. You think that's possible? You think somebody can be super fit and unhealthy? Is that a thing?
I mean, a lot of things are possible, so I can't say that it's not possible, but
no, it's definitely possible.
Like, people can achieve a lot.
Right.
You can be pretty fit and unhealthy, I'm sure. Just because nutrition's the base of the CrossFit pyramid. So I'm like, if you can be pretty fit, meaning you can do a lot of work,
right,
and you eat pretty poorly, and you can be pretty unhealthy. So like, people can test that hypothesis pretty easily. And I think a lot of people at gyms are good at that. They're good at coming in and like putting out an amount of work that no other human being around outside could do. Like, they would be like, I'm going to throw up. I feel like I'm going to die. But these guys come to the gym and they do that, but they're not so focused on the nutrition side of it outside of it, and they're not eating well. They're not taking care of their body in that manner. Right. They're not conscious of what they're putting into their body. They're just conscious of what their body's putting out.
Right.
And they're really good at it. But that's why it's like, that's a little thing that matters, but it matters. It compounds over time, and it matters big time in the end. The nutrition side, the eating well, just coming into the gym and putting out power is not the only goal of CrossFit.
Right. I've always wondered when do you think, what is the tipping point for someone when do you think someone really learns what food means to the body? Like,
that's a good question, because it's like, everybody's different, right? It's almost like it's the right way to look at the food thing is like, how far along on your journey are you?
Yeah.
Because everybody starts in a different place. They start with something different.
Right.
They start with a different meaning as to why food's important to them.
And a different way to test it, too.
Okay, let me just go ahead. I can give my example after you give your example. I'll ask the question, when did food start becoming important to you, and why?
The first time that I started taking food seriously was tied to a faith thought, which was right around the first time that I decided that I was going to take God seriously. And I started reading more. Basically, I started reading for the first time. Mm-hmm. I was an awful student in high school. They would assign a book. I would just make up. I would just legitimately BS what the book was about. And the teacher would be like, "Did you read this?" And I was like, "Yeah." "Well, your paper had nothing to do with it." And I was like, "Well, that's what it had to do. That's what it said to me." Like, I was.
That's my truth.
I was awful. Yeah, that's my truth. Awful. But this faith journey that my life took, because of a couple of different events that happened, was I started reading the Bible. And I was like, wait, I had never consumed anything that seemed to matter like this. And at that point, I had been consuming garbage before then. Like, legitimately just awful food, just drinking, all of the above, right? Mm-hmm. And then I started consuming something that was good, and I was like, wait, this is brain consumption. I'm consuming thoughts at this point, psychologically.
Yes.
And I was like, well, what does this mean physically? Like, because there's these, couple different worlds we live in, or arenas we live in. I was like, maybe what I eat matters too. Like, maybe the physical things that I put into my body matter, like the physical or the thoughts that I allow in, or whatever it is. Yeah. And that was the first time that I started doing it. And so that was the thought behind it. And then I was working at Red Lobster at like 19 or whatever. And I remember, man, it's so weird, like certain memories. Kelsey Russell, she was a year older than me, graduated. Yeah. She she was a vegetarian. And one day after a lunch shift, I saw her eating broccoli. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you eating broccoli right now? It's so bad. You know, shout out to my mom. I love my mom. But my mom boiled broccoli growing up. It was so bad. Like, it was awful. Never boil broccoli.
Ruined your experience of vegetables.
I never ate vegetables growing up, like, legitimately. Well, Kelsey's eating broccoli. I'm like, you're a crazy person. At this point, I was doing sort of reading a little bit, doing a little working out, whatever.
Yeah.
And she was like, wow, this is one of the best things you can put into your body. And the second she said that sentence, this is good for the body, I was in. And I ate it, and it didn't taste very good, but it wasn't awful anymore. It wasn't like repulsive. And then I started ordering broccoli, and I started eating broccoli after that. Now it's my favorite. It was very strange, but it was almost like a thought change before I decided to eat this broccoli.
That's interesting. So you saw it in the spiritual side, right, of what you take in, affecting what you put out, right, into the world or whatever. It made you a different person. Like, it changed you that way.
Yes.
So your immediate thought was, oh, where else in the world is this different?
100%.
Or where else in what other realm is this also similar? And you went to nutrition. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then I didn't really go away from it either. Like, I did like a whole, I had like a long stint, like a year or two of like, why this really matters. Like, if you could, because it's almost, I could reverse engineer it for some people too when I'm talking to them, like, hey, they want little victories in their life, right? And it's not, they don't really care about, they don't understand why they care about why eating the right food matters, right? It's upside down to them. However, I'm like, but the discipline part of it isn't upside down. It stays right side up. So if you can become disciplined and learn how to eat well, you're taking steps forward.
Yeah, I think it's like that compound interest idea. Like, it just compounds over time, and it's one of those things that starts out, you might not see huge progress in the beginning, but like long term, that's something that builds on itself.
And this is the thing that I know it exists in this space. That's hard to describe to people, is because when you start doing this, you want to tell people about it. Or like you're actively.
Why would you want to share with other people what you found to be helpful and true to you?
You're so excited about it.
It seems like you're in a cult, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm joking. I'm being sarcastic because this is what people say about CrossFit all the time. They're like, once people find CrossFit, they don't stop talking about CrossFit.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it is that. Yeah. No, you're so right. Like, excuse me. Yeah, you become some. I have become a broccoli evangelist.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know why, but it's what you're saying. Why does the truth end? Like, why do you end up at this true thing, and you're like, man, I think I know the truth.
But it's so funny because you're just let's say you're just starting. Like, you're in the very beginning. You just found CrossFit. You just found broccoli.
Yes.
Let's say.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, this is it. I know this is the truth. Let me go share this with everybody.
Right.
And little do you know that you're like step one, and there's people out there that have been that are, let's say, down all the way down the road, right?
Yes.
And you have a lot of catch up to do.
Yes.
But you're on the right path.
Yeah.
It's like not to be you don't want to be too ambitious in the beginning like that. Like,
well, it's like when I meet,
gym. Yeah.
It's like I have a lot of I've had a lot of people in my life observe the transformation in my life, or see the things that I do, and then take some of those things and do them.
You'll know them by their fruit, huh?
So some of those people that have took this CrossFit thing or have observed it and then done it as well, and then come back to talk to me about it. This is it's almost like I want recognition for it. Before they start their conversation and telling me about what's going on, I want them to say, thank you so much for doing what you did, because now I'm doing this, and this. I'm like, that's like legit. That, that's the bad part of my spirit. That's like, it's so hard to contend with the ego, whatever it is. Recognition.
absolutely everybody has that.
Right.
It's not like an uncommon thing.
Oh, for sure.
But a lot of people don't recognize it.
Right. Have grace on yourself, you know.
Yeah.
But to what you're saying, they start talking about workouts and this and that. And I'm trying to get better at hearing their workout and not wanting to tell them the one that I did that's easily 7 times harder than the one they just did. Because they're describing this thing that was hard to them, that was valuable, that brought camaraderie at the gym, you know, in their partner workout or whatever it is, right? It produced all these different things, and they're so proud of it, and they want to show it off, right? Maybe it's a little bit like sometimes I feel like Picasso, and that person is bringing me their finger painting from first grade, but I'm trying to figure out how to treat that as if it is a Rembrandt, you know, like. Because it is. Sure. There is well,
that's the easy way to do it then, right? Is let's say you're further down that path now. You're not the kid who just found broccoli.
Right.
Like you're the one down the road, the nutrition health nut, the person that's in a good way, right? The nutrition person that's always thinking about nutrition, thinking about what they eat. They eat really healthy. They have a plan. They know what they're doing. They know how to eat when they're on the road. They have all of these skill sets that make them a healthy person, let's say, when it comes to nutrition. They'll look back at you who just found broccoli, and they're probably like, "Oh man, I got some stuff to show you," right? But they need to just first recognize the fact that you started somewhere, right? Like, that's a great starting point. That's your starting point. They need to recognize that that's your starting point, just as you would recognize that person's starting point might be 5 minutes of Cindy. You're like, "Hey, I just did this 5 minutes of Cindy.
Right.
It was brutal. You ever heard about the Cindy workout?"
Yes.
And you're like, you've been doing CrossFit for 12 years, and you're like,
right.
I've heard of Cindy.
Yeah.
Like that's a good workout.
Yeah. Oh,
next time you should try it for 10 minutes.
Right.
You know,
right.
and you don't let them know that it's an actual benchmark and it's a 20-minute AMRAP. You see how you have all of this information that they don't have.
100%.
This is why I wanted to start this podcast.
Why would you hold that against someone?
I wouldn't.
Why
you wouldn't
people
want to
do
hold.
that?
Right.
You
I
know,
don't.
like, when
this is one of the things that why I think this community here is the way that it is.
Right.
And it's so welcoming, let's call it, right? Because I know that the person that walks in the door, they're about to be introduced to this workout, and this workout's about to be brutal.
Right.
And this person that you walk in the door, and you've been doing CrossFit for 12 years, and you're fit, right? This workout for you is about to be brutal. It's the same workout.
Right.
Right? Nothing's different.
But
the experience for that person coming in for the first time is brand new to them, right? And it's something that you want to make sure that they know that they're just starting. They know that you set the expectations for them. And those expectations are to just push themselves as hard as they can that day while maintaining good form, let's say.
Right.
But not to put too much on them, right? Like you're saying, I'm not going to take away from that person and be like, "Ha, you didn't get 10 rounds in that 20 minutes. How could you do that?" You don't want to be that guy, right?
Right.
Because nobody wants to be that guy. Like that's just not something that you strive to be. So, but I think something that makes the gym so great is that expectation is understood by many people in the gym. So they don't cast any judgment on people when they do 5 rounds of Cindy in 20 minutes.
Yep.
They're like, "Hey, great job. Nice work today.
Right.
I can't wait till you do 6 rounds next time."
Right.
And it's like that's lifting up. That's uplifting for people. That's not because it's the truth. It's not. Right. It's not. Yeah.
If you cheer the same for a person's 5-round Cindy as you do for a person's 25-round Cindy, you're in the right place.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, like you get it.
Right.
The hard thing for people though is being the 5-round Cindy person instead of the 25-round Cindy person. And it's great to have that goal, right? Like it's fun. That's a whole nother podcast in and of itself.
Yeah,
but
these are good topics.
But I think once again, it's built into the gym. Like that's why I think CrossFit is so special. You should leave. Granted, all of the nuance in your 5 rounds of Cindy, like there could be, you know, if you did it well and didn't cut reps and all the above, but in a perfect world, you should leave the gym proud of your 5 rounds of Cindy because it represented your best that day.
For that day, yes.
Right.
Yes. You know you're capable of more.
Right.
You know you can do better. Great. But that was what you had that given day, and you know that you push yourself to the limits of your abilities on that day.
That will transition.
Add in all the factors of life,
Right.
whatever that might be. Like you
Right.
might be parents, you might have not slept that
Right.
night. And I only give that example because it's close to home. But
Right.
like, there's there's an infinite number of examples of things that could have led to your 5 rounds of Cindy.
For
that
sure.
you feel like you could have done 6.
For sure.
But okay, set the bar at 6 next time and do 6.
Right.
You know, like that's the cool thing about it is it's a journey. You're always progressing. You're always aiming at a new goal and then
Right.
going for that goal. And it's like that's purposeful. That's meaningful for people.
Right.
You have a goal. I know that's in my life. Like if I don't have a goal, I'm lost.
For sure.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I gotta go to work.
Yeah. I gotta go train.
This is all from the coach's office. Hooty hoo.